there's an acronym FIRE, Financial Independent Retire Early. So it's actually a movement, and it was kind of started among millennials in the United States. And I think it traces back to the late 90s, but really it kind of kicked off in the 2000s. And there's like one famous internet personality, Mr. Money Mustache, who really popularized it. And kind of what is kind of peculiar about FIRE is that they advocate a frugal lifestyle, so living well below your means, and they kind of advocate anti-consumerism to achieve this, while at the same time depending on capitalism to ensure early retirement through building up sufficiently high passive income that it can completely cover your living expenses.
Hey, happy Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the weekly Bustle. Today I'm joined by my resident Croatian here in the Netherlands. I hope I got that right?
Yeah,
Yes, I remembered it, but I always confuse myself. But Peter is here with us. And Peter is a computer scientist. More than that, he is passionate about financial independence. I want to talk to him about everything related to that. I want to discuss everything of how he went from there to there. But before that, I want to really know how Peter came here in the Netherlands, how we met, and what drove Peter into this world of financial independence. So, before we continue, Peter, how are you doing?
yeah, great to be with you, Ahad. I'm doing great. Yeah,
Yes.
it's
So,
a it's a
Peter,
nice winter evening here. Yeah,
how's the weather in Croatia, though? I've heard it's warmer. Is that true?
it's milder. Yeah, in
Really?
winter it's milder. Yeah,
That's shocking because
and and in summer it will be a bit hotter. Yeah.
I for some reason never knew that. I always grouped Croatia into Eastern Europe, and that has always been a bit more of a colder region, right? If you think Romania, Hungary.
Okay, so I'm kind of speaking from the region where I come from, which is the seaside, so it has a Mediterranean climate.
Ah,
But
yeah,
we
yeah, yeah.
we also have, yeah, continental and even mountainous climate in some parts of the country, so it can be colder as well.
Ah,
Yeah,
yeah. So you
if
live
you
near the beach.
yeah, it is.
Ah,
There's like a part which is mountainous and they get like a meter of snow in winter, so that can be a bit more
exactly.
extreme than here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I've heard about it. Without a doubt. So, how did you come to the Netherlands, Peter?
Yeah, so my path was kind of a, let's say, it was a two-step path. So first I moved to Belgium. That was back in 2011.
Oh,
I moved to Belgium to start a PhD. I did a study in computer science on distributed algorithms. Yeah, with application to high performance computing.
oh.
So
So you're working with Spark and stuff.
I was working with something called MPI. It's a message passing interface. So it's at a much lower level than Spark.
Okay.
And this is like, yeah, you can think of it as a library that you would use if you write your program in C++ or Fortran. So it is quite low level,
Okay.
but it scales extremely well. Yeah, at the time when I did my PhD, it was like the best scaling approach to high performance computing on like supercomputers that have tens of thousands or even millions of CPUs.
Yeah.
And yeah, I joined the so-called Intel Exascience Lab in Leuven. So I was like living in Brussels. Yeah, it was a really nice experience and
Yeah.
kind of sharing like a seat with people from Intel and kind of also with people from other universities and solving these big problems for I think we were like focusing on plasma physics at the time,
Ooh.
doing a space weather simulation, and kind of also targeting Intel's latest hardware. So we would kind of get access to, yeah, like interesting CPUs that were not yet available on the market,
That's pretty cool.
and
So how long
and
did you do that before you moved to the Netherlands?
so that took 5 years, I think. Yeah. So I lived in Brussels at the time, and then yeah, then I started looking for work, and yeah, one of the job offers came from ASML, from the Netherlands, ASML, and I found it quite interesting, and it was not such a big move. So like 1 hour by car,
Yeah.
So I said, why not? Yeah, I'm already kind of used to this region of Europe.
Oh, very, very
Uh,
interesting.
and then, yeah, so I've been here for 7 years then.
7 years.
Yeah,
Oh, that's
in
long.
Eindhoven. Yeah.
That's pretty long. I've been here for five almost, and I can't believe it. I still can't believe it. So, how do you know 7 years have gone by of your life in this city? Like, how do you feel about it?
Sometimes I think I made a mistake. Sometimes I think, yeah, life in Brussels was much better, like
How so?
social wise. I had more friends or closer friends, let's say,
Yeah.
and like moving to Eindhoven was starting from scratch.
Yeah, and the older
So
you get,
it
it
was
becomes
quite
difficult.
difficult, and yeah, and it's I mean I already kind of did this once by moving from Croatia to Belgium,
Yeah.
and then again from Belgium to the Netherlands, and each time you start from zero, it's
It's
difficult. Yeah,
It is
yeah.
difficult, and this is very interesting. I would love to know more about this, your experience as an expat, going into places, building a new community from scratch, because it is difficult, it is effortful, and every single time you have to go and do the same thing again, introduce yourselves again. It's not the same as, like having deep level relationships where you can debate and discuss. You and I have been in different meetups where we do debate and discuss,
Yes, yeah.
and we do that, but we still don't know each other on a deeper level, so we can even understand why we debate and discuss the way we debate and discuss, right? So what is your experience on this, of on moving from place to place and building your own communities?
I think it is quite an educating experience. You realize, I mean, you learn that you can be quite independent and you can kind of drive your own path through life, and that you have like a lot of control over that. And it's quite scary. At least it was for me when I was moving from Croatia to Belgium. I had no idea what to expect. But then the second time I did it from Belgium to the Netherlands, I was feeling quite confident. Yeah, I didn't have the fear anymore.
Yeah,
I knew what was in store and the challenges that are going to be ahead. Um, I think it makes you, yeah, I think it makes you stronger. Also, like living in a different country, in a different culture, with a different language, is also a great opportunity to grow as a person and yeah, and experience different points of view, different ways of life that you would not be exposed had you stayed in your country the whole time.
indeed, indeed. And the
Yeah.
Belgians, not just Croatians, but the Belgians and the Dutch are also very different people, so that also plays a
Yes,
role
they
into
are.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're telling me it's an educational experience, and you knew you were ready for what was to come in Eindhoven, but you still believe it was a mistake and Brussels was better. So why did
Well, I'm
Eindhoven
kind of
come?
half joking. Yeah. So, I mean, Eindhoven has its advantages, but in terms of, yeah, let's say kind of social life I had in Brussels, it is a more exciting city. I mean, Brussels is what, like five, six times bigger than Eindhoven in population,
Ah, okay. That's
and
why.
also actually even more international than Eindhoven. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
I've
it's the capital of Europe, so you
Yeah.
have pretty much everybody from Europe in Brussels. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about Brussels. I've been to Antwerp. My client is in Antwerp, and Antwerp itself also looks like a very happening city. And I can't imagine how big Brussels is, because yeah, it gives you Amsterdam feels, and Amsterdam also is pretty huge. So
Yeah, I think
yeah.
Brussels is maybe almost twice the size of Amsterdam, so
Oof.
it's pretty large. Yeah.
It is pretty bad. Yeah, then I can imagine why you feel like it's not the same. But at least you're trying here. You have your own community. And this is exactly where I want to transition into, that you have your community, you built your community here in Aito when it is related to personal finance. It is related to
Indeed,
financial
yeah. So
independence.
yeah, so it was kind of an effort, partially to kind of build a community of people. It was partially like a volunteer effort. So I kind of give advice. I don't charge anything for that, but I also used it as an opportunity for myself to learn things. So I challenge myself when I give a lecture. I would not always pick a topic that I'm like super comfortable with, and I would use it as an opportunity to study on this and learn in the process. And I also kind of try to surround myself with people who are also quite experienced and learn from them. But at the same time, I try to make this group accessible to everybody. So yeah, I combine, let's say, introduction level topics together with the intermediate level topics in a way that kind of keeps most people interested. And it's been now slightly over a year that I've been doing this, and yeah, I'm quite happy with it. Yeah. I think it
Yeah.
was one of the better things I did since I moved to Eindhoven. Yeah.
That's very nice that you have your own community. And I want to get a bit deeper into this concept of the community you're building. So it is about financial independence, and
Indeed, yeah.
you want to take a little bit of effort in trying to learn as well stuff which is related to financial independence that you might not know. So you try to challenge yourself. But I'm quite curious how a developer working in distributed algorithms suddenly out of nowhere decided that, you know what, my calling, my interests are financial independence.
Yeah, it's not necessarily related to my professional background at all, I would say. I I guess maybe it would go all the way back to my childhood. So I kind of had like an unusual experience. That like first half of my childhood, I could say I lived in opulence. I enjoyed things which were quite inaccessible to most of my friends. And then at some point, like my parents divorced, and yeah, my father like became disabled, and all of a sudden, like our life completely flipped, and it became like a much more difficult life financially. Just like getting enough yeah, just getting like enough food was a challenge. There was like a time I couldn't even get all my school books when I started high school, like the first grade. Yeah, it was quite a shock. And I think this experience taught me how transient things in life are, and you should never take anything for granted. And it kind of forced me to kind of think about my financial security. And I think, yeah, because of that, I was interested in understanding how I can secure my own, let's say, safety net beyond what the state can offer for you. And also the fact that, yeah, this was happening in Croatia also kind of maybe disillusioned me with what the state can do for you, because it actually didn't do much for us,
Yeah.
uh, and that made it much more difficult. So yeah, I kind of went down this path of relying on myself more and not expecting the state to jump in and help. And but then, yeah, when I moved to Belgium and the Netherlands, then I kind of experienced a different kind of society where the state is much more concerned about the welfare of its citizens and much more active in improving their well-being. But still, like this experience stays with you. So I was, yeah, yeah, thinking you're never really sure what's going to happen, and yeah,
I
you
wasn't really
shouldn't.
prepared. Yeah.
Yeah, you should prepare yourself. And so that's how it started. And then the more I kind of dug into it, I realized that, hey, like there are some really cool things that you can do with this. And like one of them was like retire early. And it never really occurred to me when I was like in my early 20s that this is even possible. I never heard of anybody who did that. And yeah, and then that kind of like really is kind of like falling through the hole into this completely new world, and new perspectives open up, and then you realize how relevant this freedom is that you can obtain by becoming financially independent. And by financially independent, I don't mean being independent of like welfare from the state. It means it's actually quite a bit more extreme concept. It means if you're truly financially independent, then you don't need to work for a living. Essentially,
Yeah.
you have enough income from other sources that you don't need to work unless you really want to work and you really enjoy working. But essentially, you have the freedom to do what you want. And I would say one of the main reasons why people would pursue that is to do what they want, a job that they really like, but it might be a job that doesn't pay much, or maybe it's a job that doesn't pay at all, like they're
Yeah.
just volunteering. But yeah, still you need to pay your bills somehow. So
Yeah.
financial independence is a way to achieve this.
Yeah.
And yeah, we can talk about how you might go about doing this.
Yeah, definitely. I want to get into a little bit of the 101, definitely. But before we do that, I think you said a lot of interesting stuff that I want to come back to before. So I think I felt a very similar experience to yours. My dad was also very affluent when we were young, and then life happened, and then we became just like getting by. And then me and my
Yeah.
brothers and sisters, immediately right after getting into the job life, started contributing back into the household, which was not something we were expecting to do because we were like, oh, dad is fine, mom is fine, we'll just, build our own wealth. But to this day, we do send money back home because, of course, we're taught that that's also important, and we do believe
Hmm.
it's also important, but also because there's a necessity out of it that we need to do this because they need to survive. But my experience has been completely the opposite of yours because when I saw my dad like this, he began from nothing, and from nothing he became very affluent, and then he went back to being someone who doesn't have much. So the learning I got out of it was you can always earn money. You don't need to worry about it. And because of that, that's the life I live. And I also live very affluently sometimes, and I don't realize that I should be having an emergency fund nearby, or I should be thinking about, okay, what about my retirement? Or I should be, like focused on retiring early if that is something that I really, really like to do, reduce my working hours. But I never think of all of that stuff. All I think about is about increasing income. Like I'll be like, okay, expenses are fine, but how can I increase my income? So I have a full-time job, but on side of that, I try to be like, you know what? It'd be nice if I pick up this. Oh, it'll be very interesting if I can do this. This whole Russell project is also a byproduct of my
Uh-huh.
excessive need to do stuff, right? That, okay, what if I just run these podcasts and run some mastermind groups and see if that also works out or not? So it is interesting that I'm going to the opposite direction of what you came. And now, after realizing it, and now as a consultant, when I'm working and working, my project is ending. Now, next year, I don't have a project. I have to start again the whole job search. It made me realize that it would have been nice if I had a good amount of emergency fund, not like just a
Hmm.
couple of months, but like proper 6 months or a year, so that I could relax and see and take my time. Because my daughter is also here, I would like to also spend time with her. So this is very interesting for me, and I would love to have your thoughts on it. That how could someone be different coming in from this kind of experience, and what are your suggestions for a person like me who looks at life from this lens?
Yeah, yeah, it's an interesting story, and I also wonder myself why people start thinking about this, and I think that's actually an opportunity to do some research on this, and then maybe that's something I should do within my group now that the group grew bigger. Um, and sometimes I wonder, like, is this kind of intrinsic to the person, or is it shaped by their experiences? I don't know if you recall or have heard of this like marshmallow test that was done, I think, in the 70s
Yeah.
when they gave little children they brought them into a room where there was a candy, a marshmallow, and they had to sit in front of this candy for 15 minutes. And if they were able to do that without picking up the candy and eating it, then they would get another one by the end of the experiment.
Yeah.
And then they tracked these children like decades later through life, and they noticed that those that were able to defer gratification, as they say, they were actually more successful in life.
Yeah.
And I would assume that a lot of children who kind of pass this test would be the ones who are predisposed to let's say saving money, and from there potentially even investing. Although there is actually, I think, quite a jump that you need to make from saving to investing.
Yeah.
But saving is really the start. If you are
Indeed.
not saving, then you cannot even think about investing.
Investing. Yeah.
Yeah. So like the first thing we kind of teach in our group is saving, how to save money, and it starts basically from tracking. So you need to kind of understand where your money is going. So the first step is to start tracking your expenses.
Yeah.
I personally keep an Excel sheet, and I
I
and I track
I
my
bet you did.
expenses, and I do it every weekend. I Now it's a bit easier that I pay everything through apps. So it takes me a little time before, yeah, and I paid
You,
more with cash. It was
you have to
more
remember
work.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. But now I have data. I can go back like 7 years in time and I can see like what I spent every single purchase I made, like a cappuccino I bought, and just it's just yeah quite cool when you think about it. But
Yeah.
then this gives you an idea like where your money is going, and then you can kind of optimize it and decide which things are really important and which are not.
Yeah.
And that's a start. That's a start in saving.
Yeah.
And then yeah, once I mean your initial target should be to build like a cash buffer so that you have enough money in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
And I think it's useful to think of like in terms of months of expenses. So for most people, like 6 months worth of their expenses is a good target,
Yeah.
especially like here in Western Europe where there is a like unemployment insurance. So if you lose your job, you will get a few months covered by the state of your
Yeah.
earnings. And then when you add those 6 months, then it's quite a long buffer.
Yeah.
And we also have like social welfare. So yeah, I think maybe in the US you might need more than just 6 months.
Yeah.
But I think here 6 months is quite okay for most people.
Yeah.
And although yeah, you need to kind of yeah adjust for your circumstances. And so and yeah, I think if one of your appliances breaks down, yeah, so that's the money that you might need to spend.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if your pet has an emergency and you need to pay a veterinarian. That's another
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. Or you
Yeah.
might just want to take some insurances. I don't know. I don't own animals, so I don't know. But I would
Yeah.
imagine there are insurances for animals as well. So, but once you have this cash buffer, then you can think of doing something more interesting with the surplus. And I think the most interesting thing to do is to invest it.
Yeah.
But when you invest, you have to kind of understand that this should only be money that you can afford not to have. So it's money
Yeah.
that you don't really need to live with, which
Indeed.
is why you always have to have this cash buffer. And for example, if you invest in the stock market, then you need to be prepared to stay in the stock market for at least 10 years.
Yeah.
And I would say even more, like at least 15 years.
Yeah.
So you have to really think long term. And it's a common trap to chase short-term gains that look extremely promising, but it's a very I think it's like a very quick way to become poor if you go down that path. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
But
only a few succeed, but most really do fail in there.
yeah, but I like that point of view. A few succeed, most do fail. But why can't we be the few, Peter? Why is that I hear success stories after success stories of startups,
It's a
bootstrapping?
choice, right? Yeah, you can. Yeah. I think if you really are daring and you have a good idea, then yeah, start your startup. Yeah, start your company.
Yeah, but that's also a privilege in itself, right? To know that you can survive on no money from the state or from
Hmm.
your parents or from somewhere. People who have to pay the bills, people who have to make ends meet, people who have to support their families, for example, like me. This daring idea seems too far-fetched. Yeah, I can do that next to a job, but I can't do it with no job. And that's exactly how I live. So if I work as a consultant and I work 40 hours a week, I make some money. The surplus, I don't put in the stock market. I put just a bit in the stock market, but the rest of it, I go like, you know what? It'll be nice if you can try something out. And then that's what this project is. That's what I did a lot of, you can say, speculation in the forex world to understand how it works, to see if there's something there for me. I've tried some other small, medium ideas. Right now, my parents are after me for a catering business. So I get more excited about these things rather than just, putting money in an investment account and then wait 15, 20 years. So for people
I
like
think you're
me,
not really you're certainly not the only one.
yeah.
Um,
So
and
how do we
and
deal with that? Because that is not the surefire way to retire rich, right? When you put the money
no,
in,
no, and I
you
think we
will,
need to yeah we have to kind of fight human psychology as well. And there are like certain things like that are identified in psychology, like the present bias, where people value their immediate future much more than their distant future. And I think they even did some like fMRI analysis of people thinking about themselves in the present and thinking about themselves in the future. And they kind of noticed that the parts of the brain that are more active when they think about their future self are actually pretty much the same parts of the brain that are active when you think about other people.
Yeah.
And so you don't really see yourself
Self.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, as a self, and that's why you kind of, yeah, apply a different value judgment on the future than on the present or the very near future.
Yeah.
And I think also some studies in psychology and economy have identified that people are kind of purely risk averse and also risk seeking in an interesting way. So I think I remember like one experiment, one common experiment that they did was they would ask people like, would you take $500 now, or would you take let's say $1,100 with a 50% chance that you get the $1,100 and a 50% chance that you get zero. So the second option is actually the expected value is better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's 550 versus
Yeah.
500.
Yeah.
But most people will pick the certain 500
Yeah.
rather than the 550.
Yeah. But on the other side,
But,
so
but the other side, you have also an example of risk-seeking behavior when they tell the people like, would you accept the loss of $400,
or you would pay chance.
or would you accept a loss of $1,000 with a 50% chance that you lose $1,000 and a 50% chance that you
You
don't lose
don't lose
anything?
anything.
Then they choose the other option
Exactly.
just because there is a chance not to lose anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So we
And
are
I think this gets a lot of people in trouble. Yeah.
indeed. So we are more risk averse when it comes to positive uh, stuff, but we're more risk seeking when it comes to a bit more. I don't want to say negative, but more in the sense financially dangerous stuff. So
Indeed. Yeah.
when you're trying to double down on a loss, you want to double down on the loss. But if you want to double down on the profit, you're like, "Hey, you know what? I'm happy with this certain 50% that $50 that are coming every month. You know, like people want to keep some people have to keep cash. They don't even want to play the stock market. They want to put an investment. While you and I might know that a stock market is a surefire way of beating inflation. It has been for the past 40, 50 years. But yet people are scared because they see every day, look, it went down 10%, it went down up 10%, or this, that, COVID, it went down 35%. So they get worried about the short term, but they don't realize the amount of money that they're missing out on just by keeping it in cash because inflation is eating up your money. But that
Indeed. And I,
30%,
and I, f- I think it's kind of understandable. People are afraid of what they don't understand. And it's a matter of educating them and teaching them the value of investing. And I heard it, I think it was mentioned in one of the famous books on investing, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And the author was saying how poor people think that investing is dangerous, whereas rich people think that not investing is dangerous.
yeah,
Because they have a lot of money that would be eaten away by inflation, so they have to invest it.
they have to invest it.
Yeah,
Indeed.
yeah,
No, I really like it. So if you bring back the conversation to understanding investing is important, and you are putting in the effort in your own group to make them understand what investing is, but you also mentioned something about retiring early. So I want to take the
yes,
conversation there a little bit. Now, I personally do not really understand the concept of retiring early because, as you can see, I don't like sitting alone, right? So I will be working nevertheless. When we were offline, you said something very interesting that for me, retiring early doesn't mean stopping to work, but it means to maybe reducing my days so I can have more free days, yet maintain
indeed.
my lifestyle. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this whole financially independent retire early? How does it work if you want to make it work, and why for you working is important even after retirement?
Yeah, so this is called, there's an acronym FIRE, Financial Independent Retire Early. So it's actually a movement, and it was kind of started among millennials in the United States. And I think it traces back to the late 90s, but really it kind of kicked off in the 2000s. And there's like one famous internet personality, Mr. Money Mustache, who really popularized it. And kind of what is kind of peculiar about FIRE is that they advocate a frugal lifestyle, so living well below your means, and they kind of advocate anti-consumerism to achieve this, while at the same time depending on capitalism to ensure early retirement through building up sufficiently high passive income that it can completely cover your living expenses. And yeah, so there's something called like a savings ratio, which is a concept that explains how much of your salary you're able to save. And people in the FIRE movement, they try to save at least half of their salary, and ideally like 70% of their salary. And if you run the numbers, you can see that if you save like half of your salary and you invest it in the S&P 500 index, which is the 500 largest companies in the US by market capitalization, then you can achieve retirement in about 16 to 17 years with a, yeah, let's say maybe 95% probability. And if you save 70% of your income, then you can achieve that in probably like 10 years, possibly even a bit less.
Yeah, but
So
does that
there
apply
were
for?
actually people who were able to do it in just 10 years by being so extremely aggressive in lowering their living expenses.
Yeah, but that I think that's the
Because
thing. It's
if you're able to save 70% of your income in 1 year, then you're basically like for each year you work, you saved 2 years. Even if you don't, let's say, invest just in terms of the net value of money. Although, of course, you need to account for inflation, so it will be less the more distant the future is. So you have to invest this money, yeah,
yeah, no, but
otherwise it loses its value.
yeah, but I have a question here. Uh, I I like your idea of being aggressive, but that means your lifestyle has to be very simplistic in terms of
Indeed,
spending.
yeah.
So a very easy argument against this is then, okay, what's the point of retiring early and not working if you're not really able to enjoy the fruits of your labor or the fruits the life is willing to give you? How do you come back to it? Because I know personally I'm not the most ideal person to be preaching this because I'm not minimalistic at all. I wish I could be, but I'm not. I do spend a lot on technology. Right now, I have my eyes on the Steam Deck. I do not know if you know about the Steam Deck.
No,
So you don't do gaming.
I know about Steam. I don't know about Steam Deck.
Yeah, so like Steam Deck is basically a Game Boy version of a PC. So you
All
can
right.
run Steam games on them and play them on the go, which is inherently useless if you think about it. You don't need it, but if you think about it, you can also need it. You know, when you're on the commute. So my point is, I really want the Steam Deck, Peter, and I want you to help me justify the expense, yet keep me motivated to be fire. How would we do that?
Yeah, so like one advice I would kind of is just as a thinking exercise I would give to people is to kind of think of items in your life as assets and liabilities. So an asset is anything that appreciates in value. So an asset could be a house. Houses usually appreciate over time. Not always, but let's say in most cases, yes,
Yeah.
especially in a stable country like the Netherlands.
Mm.
Uh, a liability, for example, would be a car. Cars depreciate in value.
Yeah.
So you should kind of focus on assets
Mm.
and minimize your investment in liabilities. So liabilities are also, let's say, designer clothes,
Yeah.
expensive electronics. We need some of these things, but most of them are, yeah, kind of surplus luxuries.
Yeah.
So I tell people, yeah, kind of focus more on the assets. And perhaps also another useful exercise is to think of time as money. So when you're going to buy an iPhone, you want to buy the latest iPhone 15. Think about how many months of work that is to save enough money for that. And is that really worth your time? Yeah.
I think about it the other way. I go like,
All
okay,
right.
time is money. So imagine if I have a shitty phone that takes away a lot of my time in repairing it or maintaining it, or think of it as services, like how much effort goes into cooking and cleaning. And if I outsource it, it's more cheaper. But it's not. It takes away income. While I do have
Yes.
time, while my income, my money is not, it's not infinite as my time. I can only work 40 hours a week, 9 to 5, right? I can try to work in the evenings, but there are not many opportunities available compared to my time, which is always there. So I can always clean the house. I can always work a little bit more on cooking and everything like that. So do you not think it should be the other way around in that sense that I have a lot more time to expend? So why not expend it to get the things that I want?
Yeah, that's also a valid way to think. But then there is like a cutoff point, right, where you're expending too much time and you're kind of just starting to live, as they say, paycheck to paycheck. Because the more time you expend into, let's say, activities that don't bring an income, yeah, the lower your income gets.
Yeah,
And I think many people are like that. They either, yeah, they either don't earn enough because they work less. I would say that's a minority of people, but the majority of people in this situation are people who are spending their entire income and they don't see a problem with it, except maybe over time they realize, yeah, I'm kind of just always at the beginning. Like I haven't really moved anywhere. I haven't really built up anything in my life. So if I lose my job, I'm like in serious trouble. And it's actually interesting. It's kind of universal across income levels.
yeah,
And it seems like in the US, I've seen like even more prevalent among people who earn six figures.
yeah,
They're like even more often in this situation of living paycheck to paycheck than people that have
exactly.
maybe like 30, $40,000, which I found quite funny.
It's confusing
So
to
so
be honest
the
with you.
more people earn, like they get like a promotion and their salary increases, and then also their lifestyle
Expenses.
goes up, and so they haven't really yeah improved financially at all.
Indeed, indeed, I agree with you. I think, but
So
to be
so the
honest, it's
idea of
difficult.
fire is to kind of let's say fix a certain lifestyle that you want. It doesn't have to be extremely frugal. It has to be something that you're comfortable with, but maybe it shouldn't be also lavish either. And then you should seek, yeah, to improve yourself career-wise, to get these promotions, increase your salary. But when you get a higher salary, you keep the same lifestyle, and in that way, you're increasing your saving ratio. But
That's
you have to kind of be content with this life that you have.
yeah, but how?
Yeah.
How?
It's I think it's yeah kind of going back to this marshmallow test, right?
No, but then
You're
but if you're talking about the marshmallow test, you're saying is
there is a
predisposed.
reward coming later,
Yeah,
and but the ultimate reward, like the whole point why you would do this fire is to get time. Yeah, it's kind of yeah. I don't, it's not paradoxical, but you're basically kind of trading time and now in the near future for time in the distant future. Because once you become financially independent, then you have all the time in the world to do whatever you want.
yeah, yeah. I understand that, but it's more like you don't have the need to work, but you still would want to work. You would want to work on your projects, on your
Indeed,
passions.
you can work, you can travel the world. I mean, there is a channel, CNBC Make It on YouTube, where you can find many stories of people who achieved fire or are working towards fire. And I remember there was one guy who started an internet company, and then he sold it for several $1 million. And and he and the guy that kind of bought the company, he just said, "Yeah, I'm going to the Caribbean to the beach." And the guy says, "Like, so yeah, that sounds really nice. When you're coming back, like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not coming back. I'm gonna stay there." And and then he said, like, this kind of got boring, and then he got back home, and then he started playing StarCraft, and he played StarCraft for 1 year, and it's like, okay, this was like a waste of time. Maybe I should just kind of like start doing what I really like, and then he started another company, and yeah,
So basically, yeah, what
in,
he
in,
realized was that he loves to work, no matter how much money he has.
He did, but it took him a few years to realize this. And
Yeah, could be. But that is a privilege in itself
yeah,
that you can have 3 years of playing StarCraft and traveling on Caribbean islands for you to realize that, oh, all you need to do is just go back to work because that's what you want.
indeed, yeah.
Yeah. But
So that is the ultimate freedom, and I think that that's what financial independence gives you.
so I have a question. So it's very easy to write down stuff. It's very easy to plot it in your Excel sheet and in your calendar and everything. But how do I stay the course? So, for example, now I say to myself, okay, the year of 2024 is the year of the emergency fund. This year, you need to
Hmm.
build your emergency fund no matter what. Save your
Yes.
money, be very. But how do you do that? When my wife tells me today that I'm in the mood for Dr. Feel Good burger, and we order like a 35 euro burger, right? And we eat it, we're losing money. I could have made food that would have cost 5 to 10 euros, but I chose not to because my wife was like, "I'm in the mood to eat something. Let's order." And I'm like, "Hey, you know what? Sure, we earn good money. Why not?" And that's what it's been for the past few years for me. It's
Yeah,
exactly
it's
like
not
that.
going to be easy, right? I mean, first you need to convince yourself, and then you need to sell the idea to your wife. So, but yeah, you have to start with yourself, I would
Yeah,
say first. And I mean, for me, it's easier since I'm like a single person. Uh, but yeah, you have to feel very strongly about it. I mean, otherwise you will not, yeah, it will be extremely difficult. But yeah, doing it step by step, I think is a valid strategy. So I think building a cash buffer, that's something quite attainable. I think most people, I think everybody can do this, right?
yeah,
It might take time, but that's like, yeah, kind of low hanging fruit that you should work towards. And once you have this, then yes, just kind of let it grow a little bit. See, yeah, then you might kind of start thinking, yeah, what to do with like these extra months that I don't need in my cash buffer,
yeah.
and
No, but like, how do I?
how about we invest that, for example. Um, but the question is, yeah, what are the benefits, right? So you need to also think about that, like what do I want to achieve? So I mentioned like one achievement was that we discussed is early retirement, but it doesn't have to be that. So another achievement can just be actually extra income,
Yeah,
like kind of like you like mentioned some side hustles. Your investments can be a form of extra income. So you can just kind of invest money in a dividend paying company. So there are like some companies that pay 5 to 8% dividends,
yeah,
and that's extra income that you can have every month. And if you kind of sufficiently build this up, it can be yeah, several thousand euros a year or even more.
yeah. Is
So it can
is
be
there
like,
is there any company? Is there any index that gives you dividend of all the companies that give dividends? Does that
I
sort
think
of?
there is. I don't invest in that, but certainly there are. I mean, people have built indexes for pretty much anything that you can
Yeah.
think of. So there are also indexes for dividend-paying companies.
And then
So
if
that's
you
that's
is
that's an so that's kind of like one idea. Maybe we can kind of go a little bit later into some of the investment strategies. But I would also want to mention like another maybe potential idea is to, and something we touched upon in the very beginning, is to, for example, work less a week. So you don't want to retire, that's not your goal. But what you might want to do is like work 1 day a week less, or work 2 days a week less, but keep the same lifestyle. So you will earn less money. But if you have this passive income on the side, then you can make up for this shortfall.
indeed, indeed.
And then you have time to pursue your other pleasures. And so that's
Okay,
kind of,
okay,
I
let's
would say
talk.
like by talking with people in the Netherlands, I have the impression they really prefer this alternative to early retirement more.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And
So
and
let
they even named it hot, HOT, as like opposed to fire. And then HOT stands for happiness, opportunity, and time.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a wonderful way of looking at it. Now, so let's try to make it personal a little bit. So we're talking about general theories and everything. So why do you want to reduce a few days a week? What would you be trying to work towards then if you had
So
the opportunity?
I really like learning things. So I would like really spend this time educating myself, and I really like to learn, read books. I like to follow courses online, and and there are so many things I would like to try out, and maybe do my hobby projects in programming, and that I don't have the time or sometimes even the energy after like a stressful work week. So these are immediately the things that come to my mind. Of course, I also like to travel, so that's another thing I would be doing more. And
That's
I mean, so there are many strategies. Like I also like you can also instead of like working 1 week, 1 day a week less or 2 days a week less, you can maybe do extended vacations every year, for example,
then they
or
don't
every
get
two
paid,
years.
basically.
Yeah, so you take either a sabbatical, you quit your job because you have enough money on the side,
Yeah.
and then you go traveling around the world for 3 months,
Yeah.
and then you come back to work, and then
How,
you do that every year or two. Like,
but how are you so confident that you're gonna get a job though?
yeah, so I think this works better in a country like the US, where it's quite normal to. I mean, you don't have to give any reason to fire somebody or to quit, and then because of that, it's also very easy to get hired.
Yeah.
Whereas in Europe, it's yeah, I mean, it's like almost impossible to fire someone, but then it's also a double-edged sword. It's also kind of difficult to get a job as well.
Yeah, indeed,
You
indeed.
have to pass many hurdles because yeah, you're kind of a liability to the company if yeah, you're a troublemaker, let's say. Let's call it like that.
No, indeed, that makes sense.
But I
So,
mean, that's another idea, right? So
yeah.
I think yeah, there are many possibilities. Yeah.
So what else? What else could you do instead of reducing work and vacationing? And if you think about investment strategies, I'm still curious to for us to find a way to stay on track, stay motivated. So because for me personally, the biggest issue always has been to stay the course. So personal
Now, do you
development
have?
was
I mean, as I said before, you need to have a goal. Like you need to fix a target.
yeah, there's a
And you
target.
can
I want
say,
to retire early.
let's say my target is I want to retire in 15 years.
Yeah.
Then I will take an Excel sheet, I will run the numbers, and I will see, okay, I need to save 50% of my income every year if I want to have a realistic chance to achieve that. And then this is my kind of a yardstick. So every year I keep this Excel sheet and I compute my savings ratio, and then I can see I'm on target or I'm not on target. And this is, yeah, something that keeps me going towards the direction that I want to go.
Yeah, yeah, but that helps you, right? You go like it
Yeah.
helps me if I see the numbers. But how do I convince myself when I see 2,000 euros drop into my account that okay, 1,000 is not mine? Because that's the biggest struggle that I face, right? Peter, I look at the money and I go like, oh, a lot of money to spend. So how do you
That's
define?
why like I was that's kind of like the question that I have like is this like intrinsic to people? Can we yeah I have not really tried to do this on a large scale to I only get people in my group who are already interested, right?
Yeah,
I don't reach out to people on the street, hey, like, yeah, you should be financially dependent. No. So, so I have like an easy task because I already have motivated people. And I
yeah.
know as a child, I would like, yeah, kind of find it natural to say things. I would like get gifts like chocolates, whatnot for birthdays, and people would visit our home, and then I would just keep them in my part of my wardrobe or closet. And then my brother and my mom, they would like eat their chocolates immediately, and then they would like see my big pile of chocolates.
Yeah.
And I would take just one little bar every day, and then I think my mom one point says, "Yeah, if you're not gonna eat it, I'm gonna eat it." Like, and
No, but that there is a predisposition
yeah,
attached to it then,
yeah,
right? Because you are that type of person who can
indeed,
save.
yeah.
Yeah, but for me, like I'm
So,
basically your brother and your mom, right? I look at chocolate, I eat chocolate. I look at money, I spend money. So discipline has always been a problem.
so yeah, I don't have an easy answer for you. And I mean, some people I know that through talking, one of the reasons why they want to pursue this path is like they hate their job. They want to stop working as soon as possible. And that's a very strong motivator for people.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I think one person that I know that's already retired early, that was his main motivator. Like he started working at 18 and realized I hate working. Like, and already at age 18, he started planning early retirement. Like,
Oh wow.
and that was his motivation. Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense. It's difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I do wanna.
So I cannot really give you an answer, right? You first have to realize this is even worth pursuing. And I think if you realize it's worth pursuing, you're a smart man. You will figure it out. Yeah.
Yeah, but I
You,
think
you know, yeah.
yeah, I think my predisposition and my bias falls more towards the right side of the scale rather than the left side of the scale, right? So your scale is pretty simple that okay, say 50 to 70% of your income, and in the next 15 to 20 years, you're gold. For sure, for sure. And I go like, yeah, but
Not for sure, but a little bit of high probability,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah.
There's
Hello,
nothing
you said
nothing guaranteed.
95%,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
as much as you can. And I go like, okay, but why not live my life now and enjoy my life in the future by hustling as much as I can and see if I can hit a six here and there. So by a six, I mean it's a cricket terminology. So like
Hmm.
or think of it as a home run, you know? So that's how I live. I go like, okay, what are the possibilities that I can maximize my income rather than focus on my expenses? Because I do want to live a good life now and I do want to live a
Hmm.
good life in the future. So I cannot fathom to see me compromising on my life now for a life in the future. As you said, it's a person I don't even know. What if it's a person who doesn't want to retire? Then all of this was for not that I spent so much time, had a frugal lifestyle, and got to the point of retirement that I became one that is those guys who goes like, you know what? I like working. Well, great, you like working, but then what about the last 15 to 20 years you were enjoying a frugal lifestyle to stop working? But no, you always want to work. So I focus more on there because I feel like I'm one of those people who will never stop working. If retirement is not something I see. Yes, I would
Hmm.
like to work on something that I choose. I want to work in jobs and in things that I could enjoy. A good example of this would be, as you said yourself, like I would love to be a teacher or a trainer at a university, and that doesn't pay a
Hmm.
lot. So
Indeed.
I'm trying to find ways that how I can manage those life while also earning a good lifestyle, and is the struggle that I'm in these days in trying to find a balance between the two.
Yeah, I mean, only you can answer this question, right? And I don't necessarily think that financial independence is a path that most people should pursue. Yeah, it's just one of the paths you can take in life, and I don't want to impose this on anybody. And it's a path that I chose, and I think it's a good path, but it doesn't necessarily need to be a good path for other people. Uh,
Indeed.
so yeah, I mean, I think that's like the best answer I can give you.
I'm
Yeah,
I'm enjoying this conversation a lot. Sadly, we have to wrap it down slowly, slowly. We're hitting the mark,
yeah.
but I am really enjoying it because I'm really trying to understand this, right? As you said, it's nice to broaden your horizon. It's nice to understand a little bit more from different people. And for me, it's very interesting to know and hear and listen to people who are so passionate about this because they're like, I imagine myself living in a life where I choose what I want to do and I can choose to be who I want to be. And to achieve that, being able to have such discipline and being able to have such, you can say, passion to live a lifestyle as you're living, to achieve that lifestyle there is commendable. It's because I can't do it, right? It's exactly why it's commendable. Because if you ask me to compromise now for something in the future, I go like, I don't know. I like to have my cake and eat it too, right? I want and
Hmm.
lifestyle. I'm like, can I not have this and can I have not have that? And that is improbable. So that's why I like to learn and have these conversations. You're the second guest on financial freedom I had in the podcast
All
because
right,
I had
cool.
one more before as well because same conversation. They were like, you need to focus on yourself. You need to see where your money is going and everything. And I'm like, I do everything. I have this app. It's called Wallet. I do not know if you know
All
about
right,
it.
I
Wonderful
don't.
app, so easy, just directly connects to your bank account, and it's smarter that it automatically categorizes your expenses pretty accurately. I think 80%. So you have to just do 20% effort, and that's relatively easy. And then you see your budget at the end of the month, and you go like, "Huh?" And literally, my reaction is, "Well, this is okay. This isn't bad, but it is a lot of money. But I still justify it. I go like, yeah, well, 500 euros to 800 euros on food is reasonable." But then I talk to people, and some people go like, "No, it's not reasonable." Some people say, "Yeah, oh, it's less than what we spend." So it's confusing on a personal level, as you said. But no matter what I do for myself, I always get stuck at discipline. So why I enjoyed this conversation was I learned a lot about discipline, about goal setting. And I hope I can come back to you with some good news later on down the line that, hey, Peter, I achieved my goal for 2024. I made a savings buffer by doing this whole calculation that, okay, to achieve 6 months of
Uh-huh.
expenses, I need to per month save this much money. Maybe that would be a way to do it.
Yeah, yeah. But challenge yourself a little bit with a small target, and I think you will feel much better. I personally feel much better having a financial buffer and knowing that, yeah, I could just like quit my job and go travel around the world if I want at any moment in time. It's a huge psychological relief
Yeah, I think so as well.
to be in such a situation. And
Yeah,
I've even seen like certain studies that show that people who are in financial duress and who are struggling day by day just to feed themselves and their family, they're not making good decisions in life. Yeah, their brain is kind of overcapacitated just trying to survive. They cannot really look into the future and do long-term planning.
indeed,
And this really, yeah, kind of puts them on a downward spiral. Yeah.
indeed. Well,
So
thank you so much, Peter, for your time. I want
it
to
was my pleasure. Yeah.
Yes, and I want to thank you for educating us a little bit on this. And I want to tell a little bit about your group. Where can we find it? What are the links? I'll put the links in the show notes so anyone who's listening here
Hmm.
in Eindhoven can visit those things. If you want to showcase your personal links, if you talk about this online somewhere, we can also post those down. So maybe this is your moment to talk a little bit about what you're doing.
Yeah. So my group is on Meetup. We meet in Eindhoven every 2 weeks. So we combine kind of social gatherings in a cafe setting around a table, and we also do presentations in let's say kind of private reserved rooms with projection equipment and flip charts, where we kind of dig in deeper into certain topics. And it's a great opportunity to learn about financial independence, to improve your financial literacy, but also to make new friends. I think that's maybe the most valuable thing of a meetup like this. And yeah, I encourage everybody just to visit and see if you like it. And I guarantee you, you're going to have a good time. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much, Peter. The links will be down below if anyone is interested here who's listening here in Eindhoven to visit Peter's meetup. And I'm looking forward to seeing it myself if I get the chance. But parenthood is a bit difficult, so we're focused on that
Yeah,
first.
take your time.
Thank you so much, Peter, for your time, and I
Yeah,
wish you a
thank you,
wonderful
Ahad.
evening.
Yeah, yeah,
Take
you
care.
too. Take care.
Bye
Yeah,
bye.
good night. Bye bye.
I just want to give you guys a heads up. The roundtable is beginning for January 2024. The roundtable is a mastermind group where I try to bring like minded yet cross functional people in one room under my facilitation, where we will go through goals, ideas, obstacles, even debates, where people are interested about something, they want to learn something from everyone else in the group and basically become a better version of themselves. I'm really enthusiastic about this project, and I'm really looking forward to seeing any one of you who wants to sign up and be part of the process. The link is on the website, of course, to sign up. And if you go to our Instagram or any of our social media links, you will see the link as well. It is also here below in the show notes. So if you're interested, just click the link, fill out the form, and I will catch you in an introductory call. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time.